So, hi. I just wanted to do a live stream because I saw something in The Guardian today and it said plant based diets crucial to saving global wildlife, says report. And this is Damian Carrington, who's the environment editor of The Guardian. And he's not too bad. I think he actually went vegan or plant based. So he's kind of moving in the right direction. So this report is by something called the Chatham House think tank. And it said that agriculture, now this is going to be no surprise to us, is the main threat to 86% of the 28,000 species known to be at risk of extinction. Without change, the loss of biodiversity will continue to accelerate and threaten the world's ability to sustain humanity. And of course, all the free living animals are kind of dying off. And then it says the root cause is a vicious circle of cheap food where low costs drive bigger demand for food and more waste with more competition, then driving costs even lower through more clearing of natural land and use of polluting fertilizers and pesticides, and actually subsidies, which doesn't seem to have been mentioned in here, but obviously agricultural subsidies, which mainly go to monocrops or so-called animal agriculture, which we call the animal death industry. That's a massive contributor. Corporations like the fast food corporations who buy these body parts of sentient beings in bulk and often own the producing entities as well. So the report is saying that there is a three-pronged solution. And guess what the first one is? Yeah, a shift to plant-based diets, because cattle, sheep and other livestock have the biggest impact on the environment. As we know, as we've been bashing our vegan heads against non-vegan wars for the last God knows how long. So yet another report has come out and said it. Then it says more than 80% of global farmland is used to raise animals, which we vegans already knew. And we've mentioned this quite a lot of millions of times in our outreach. And really, nobody seems to give a stuff about it, do they? I mean, if you talked to local environmental groups like I have, even so-called Extinction Rebellion, talking about the vegan good news, it's like basically they're all like F off, in a caring, sharing way. They're not interested, let alone the sort of punter in the street. So, another report, it's nice, but how much good is it going to do? And again, it talks about more than 80% of global farmland is used to raise animals, which provide only 18% of calories eaten. Reversing the rising trend of meat consumption, which I think a lot of vegans, again, this one I think is often sort of missed out. There is an actual rising trend globally of animal body consumption because the multinational corporations are pushing these animal body parts consumptions notions with their advertising and their fast food in countries that have not traditionally eaten animal body parts to the same extent. So, 18% of the calories, 80% of global farmland. It's not, it's not rocket science, is it? The availability of land also underpins another solution, the report says, which is farming in a less intensive and damaging way, but accepting lower yields. So they're talking about organic. And they're also saying that this would also tackle the climate crisis. And again, I, as a sort of like a climate change activist for sort of like a gazillion years, I'm kind of a bit bored with talking about it. And again, it's the sort of like the blank faces, whether you're in vegan land or whether you're elsewhere. When you talk about this, because everybody thinks like climate change is not, it's so slow, it's so far away, maybe 20, maybe it's going to happen in 100 years' time. Well, actually, I was looking at something yesterday and they're estimating the first system collapse, which is the thing that we need to worry about, the first system collapse, is going to start happening within a decade. It may not be here, in which case most people don't care. But it's really important to understand it's happening now. When I was in India talking to mango farmers about a decade ago, they were showing me these massive bore wells, which are these gigantic wells, which are sort of, they're about, I don't know, 7 meters wide, and they go hundreds and hundreds of meters into ground. They're used for irrigation. And these massive bore wells were sort of like running dry because of climate change and also the draining of the natural aquifers. So this means that they can't irrigate their land. So this is happening now. This was happening 10 years ago. It's happening now, and it's getting worse. So this is where I think we all need to get a sense of urgency. I'm always going on about, speed things up and get a sense of urgency. But people don't really want to hear this. So one of the authors of this report, Professor Tim Benton, who I think I've heard of before, and I think is kind of generally on the right page, he says we must stop arguing that we have to subsidise the food system in the name of the poor and instead deal with the poor by bringing them out of poverty. Well, yeah, so that would kind of be my other favourite hobby horse, which is neoliberalism. So maybe Tim Benton is on the anti-neoliberalism front. I doubt it. He's probably got some other project in mind. But he said that the impact of the food system on climate and health was becoming widely accepted, but that biodiversity, i.e., that's generally sort of like they mean free living animals and the ecosystems they inhabit, was seen too often as a nice to have. Yeah, so like in lockdown, what's happening is my local park is being turned into a kind of a reserve for plastic. And all the grass is being turned into mud because people are trampling around. It's being turned into a dog poo harvesting area because people are walking their dogs and not bothering to pick up dog mess. This is the typical lack of engagement with the environment that most people have. So it's all really kind of depressing, I think. But it's typically this notion of nice to have biodiversity. Oh, you see a squirrel, you take a photograph. People go up to the lake and be taking photos of swans or something, not realising, and eating chickens, you know what it's like. Anyway, the bad thing about this piece is that they quote, again, Jane Goodall, the renowned conservationist, who's basically saying the intensive farming of billions of animals seriously damaged the environment and inhumane crowded conditions risked a new pandemic, diseases coming into people. It should be phased out as soon as possible. Well, yes. So why is Jane Goodall not vegan? Maybe you can tell me. It's not good enough. So the report continues that the world has lost half of its natural ecosystems, and that the average population size of wild animals has fallen by 68%. I mean, it's absolutely gutting. Since 1970, 68% since 1970. In contrast, farmed animals, mainly cows and pigs, now account for 60% of all mammals by weight, with humans making up 36%, and free-living animals just 4%. I mean, we've all seen the memes on Facebook, but now they've made their way into The Guardian. Will anything happen? I mean, I think this is an opportunity for us as vegans to really try and sort of like push the whole sort of like, really have a new push, a stronger push to get out there and advocate in whatever way we can about these things. A nice point that they make is that a switch from beef to beans in the US would free up fields equivalent to 42% of US croplands. I mean, it's just incredible. The numbers, as I said, we all know this, but we really need to be telling the ordinary people, the non-vegans, a lot more about this and repeating and repeating and repeating. I know we do. And well done, everybody who's out there being active and, but I think we need to ramp it up somehow. And therefore, it's, massive amounts of carbon could be absorbed if the permanent pasture around the world that was once forest was returned to its native state. Could store 72 billion tonnes of carbon, which seems to be a lot, roughly equivalent to 7 years of global emissions from fossil fuels. That is a lot. And then he says, oh, then he spoils it all. This Professor Tim Benton said the report was not advocating that all people should become vegan. Heaven forfend. I mean, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with these people? What is wrong with them? I'm sorry, but he knows that this is really the way forward, but terrified, just terrified. So maybe Professor Tim Benton is too terrified to advocate that everybody should become vegan. Maybe it's okay for us to do that with a sense of urgency. It just gets annoying. And then he says, well, Damian Carrington says the year ahead offers a potentially unique opportunity to redesign the global food system with major UN summits on biodiversity and climate, as well as the world's first UN Food System Summit and an International Nutrition for Growth Summit. Well, maybe these are things that we can peg our vegan activism to, make it topical, give it an extra push, because it helps to make things topical. And then they quote somebody from Compassion in World Farming who says the future of farming must be nature friendly and regenerative. Just say no to regenerative agriculture, it's a lie. And our diets must become more plant-based, healthy and sustainable. Yeah, I mean, we must all go vegan basically. Without ending factory farming, we are all in danger of having no future at all. Well, you can tell that guy is not really, or I don't know if he's vegan, I doubt it by the sound of it. If these authority figures are scared of pushing the whole sort of like vegan message, I think that's perhaps where we as vegans and activists can really get out there with more confidence and say, look, this is the thing, this is not just us being vegans and trying to make you do that terrible, terrible thing of not eating other animals. There are scientific reasons if you're a sort of scientific person. There are biodiversity reasons if you're into wildlife and stuff like that, free living animals. There are also loads of health reasons which people like to advocate on. So that's my take on The Guardian today. As I said, it's not a bad piece. It's topical. It's got a picture of some cows. Plant-based diets crucial to saving global wildlife, says report. I think the key takeaways would be to link into these other events that are happening. So these UN summits on biodiversity and climate, as well as the UN's first food system summit and an international nutrition for growth summit. It's all in The Guardian. I'll link it down below with our advocacy and maybe kind of get some traction in terms of maybe even getting into, local newspapers or more on YouTube or something, because, we've got to act fast. We've got to act faster and faster and faster. We've got to act with a sense of urgency. Or we are in danger of having no future at all. Not just like the animals that are killed, billions and trillions of animals that are killed every single year who don't have a future. So we're all animals. So we should all be on the same page. Anyway, thank you everyone for being so listening and so open to the vegan good news. And as you know, I'm Pamela from Animal Justice Emergency. Together we can organise and be active to end the war on other animals. If you like this, please like and subscribe. And if you want to share it, feel free. Might be another live stream coming up quite soon because I've just had something exciting come through my letterbox. I'll see you in a little while.